Good evening. It is 6:14, and this is Monday, October 14th, 2024. And this is a meeting of the Community and Economic Development Committee. My name is Jeff Schilling, and I'm the chair. To my left is Mr. Pierce, and to my right is Mrs. Sneed. Tonight, we are going to provide a recommendation to Council regarding the recommendation of the Troy Planning Commission that the zoning code be amended to establish a prohibition regarding adult use cannabis. Operators consider extending the current moratorium by an additional 90 days. You want to give some background on that, Mr. Titterington?
So the Planning Commission at its October 9th meeting made the unanimous recommendation that the zoning code text be amended related to the adult use cannabis in response to the new state law, and specifically that dispensaries not be allowed within the community, as well as allowing testing labs within one of the manufacturing zoning districts.
M3 or something like that?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
So you know, the code, the zoning code does not require a public hearing on this, number one, because it is a text change, and we had confirmed that with the law director. And when I say required, that doesn't mean that it's not optional, it's just not required. And my second point escapes me. So I'm sure it'll pop back into my head. I'm getting old.
Join the club.
So the council certainly can have a public comment or public hearing, whatever you want to call that, at a future meeting, which is something that we wanted to discuss. Our intention never was, nor has it been in the past, that we would not invite public comments, and so I know that that's kind of been discussed and will be further discussed. The current moratorium extension, so we had the initial 180-day moratorium. By the time that extension or that initial moratorium was expiring, we still did not have any, we had not yet had any of the Ohio state guidelines out, and they were outstanding. We are now in the last, well, we're probably 2/3 through the 180-day moratorium extension, which is set to expire on November 28th. And a few weeks ago, we did receive final guidelines and started looking at what other communities were doing, how they were handling it, and how we wanted to proceed. And then, of course, we had to go to the Planning Commission and ultimately to you now. So with the November 28th deadline really not that far away in the grand scheme of things, particularly if the council wishes to schedule during a council meeting perhaps some public comments, public input, we risk that moratorium expiring. And so first thing that we would ask, or one of the things that we would ask, is that council consider extending that moratorium for 90 days to allow sufficient time to get public input, possibly come back to the committee for a final recommendation, and then do the legislation and the readings thereof. All within what would amount to a new moratorium deadline of end of February of next year.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Super. Questions from the committee?
So you are recommending this is split into two different pieces. One portion is that we consider extending the current moratorium for additional 90 days and seeking approval vote on that today, and then maybe a different portion for a time for public comment next week or something like that?
Well, so, I guess the short answer is yes. We would ask for a recommendation for legislation at the Monday council meeting to extend the moratorium. Whether or not there's any other legislation related to the actual, overall issue, adult use cannabis operators, that's up to the committee, so there may not be two pieces of legislation, but certainly the one that we would like to see at minimum, for next Monday is the moratorium extension.
All right.
Mrs. Snee, have any questions?
Well, my first comment is that I would be in favor of extending the moratorium,
Okay.
certainly. And, however this committee chooses to hear public comment, I would certainly be in favor of that as well. If we put this to another committee meeting, heard it at a council meeting, both of those options, I'm fine with that.
Yeah, in my humble opinion, I think that we may want to spend a little bit more time on this. I know the voters in the state of Ohio decided to allow cannabis to be sold recreationally for recreational purposes, having prior years said that cannabis could be sold for medicinal purposes. So I think it's something that we want to consider. And I think the 90 days would give us that time to do that. And I think that we should, I think I would look forward to hearing from the residents as far as what they wanted to do. My understanding, if I remember rightly from what I read, is that maybe here in Miami County we did not approve the change. I think we were, the number of voters that voted did not approve the the state overall approved the cannabis sales, but I think in our county, we did not. And I might be wrong on that, but I think I read that.
Yeah, you are. Yeah, it was, okay, just to clarify, this, the statewide issue, State Issue 2 is what you're talking about.
Right.
That did pass in Troy, 52-48.
Okay. I was wrong on that too.
That issue, the issue that was on the ballot, and I don't have the language in front of me, was statewide, do we want to allow recreational marijuana? It didn't speak specifically to dispensaries or growing or anything like that. It was the overall topic, if you will. But yes, it did.
Okay, it did pass Miami
County.
Okay, so
Yes.
He said Troy. You
Cool.
said Miami County. So you guys.
Well,
I
regardless
think it was both.
You guys could both be
I
right.
believe it
I
was
don't know.
both.
yeah, okay, okay, I stand corrected. For some reason, I thought I'd read Miami, but anyway, it doesn't make it. But anyway, I think there's enough interest here to look at this and proceed. One of the questions I had, is somewhere again I read, probably in one of the local newspapers, that our friends to the north have already looked at this issue because they already have the medical marijuana dispensary and growing and that type of thing. And they were expecting, the number hit me at $200,000 in tax revenue. In other words, that the way the sales tax, the way the tax is set up is that each community gets a share of that tax coming back to them. And they were looking at, I mean, I thought the number was astronomical, but for some reason that number stuck in my mind. I mean,
your number is low as far as what they expect to get. So Pickwood does have two medical now, recreational, but medical dispensaries. And so once the rules and the licensure mechanism was put into place, those medical dispensaries did apply for recreational, and they were granted those licenses. Statewide, there's a limited number of licenses available, and the priority was given, has been given to medical dispensaries as having the first shot at the recreational licenses. There's a limited number of those licenses, so how many others are available beyond the medical I don't have that number.
Mhm.
And nor do I know whether the state even has issued that number yet. As far as the potential revenue, there is a percentage that the municipality gets of what is collected in sales tax from those operations. The rest goes to the state. And in Pickwa's case, the number was far north of the $200,000. I believe it was anywhere from $400,000 to $600,000 in that area.
Okay.
Because again, you're talking about two dispensaries.
Is there any, if it was decided that we wanted a dispensary in Troy, is there any estimate of what we would receive from?
I have no clue.
No clue?
I know that in Pickwa's case, that was based on the projected sales of the actual businesses, which has a track record from the medical sales that had been in place for several years. The medical issue was voted on in not voted on statewide, but voted locally once the law changed in 2016.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been a few years, and so they've got some history.
Okay. And I guess the idea behind this is that it would take some of the cash flow out of the local vendors that are operating now and put that into something that's regulated. I know we have a couple of sites here in Troy and that are operating now, and probably more than two. But anyway, so they would take the revenue from them would essentially flow into a more regulated system. The revenue that they collect.
I'm not sure what.
Well, we've got a place right down here on Canal Street that's they just had a disagreement with one of their the second time in less than 3 months that they had a disagreement with the buyers and sellers down there, and guns were shown and shots were fired, and then earlier this spring we talked about, I think somebody came in and talked about the problem with drug sales out in the Boyer Park area.
Okay, so you'd be talking about illegal drug sales, not stores, because I was going to say.
Well, they're vendors operating inside the city of Troy.
I see.
And so the idea, though, is that if we permitted the sale of regulated cannabis, then that may weigh some of the income from some of these other places that are currently operating inside the city limits of Troy.
There are no places that are operating in the city of Troy. There are dealers that are, I don't know. We don't have medical marijuana dispensaries here in Troy. No, you don't. There are, like I say again, the one place that was right down here on Canal Street, one of the houses on West Canal. It's happened last week. Guns were shown. They were uncertain whether shots were fired. Less than 2 months ago, that same place erupted. The same deal. They had some disagreement with the buyers and sellers, and the police were down there, and so we have some operation here in Troy already, and so the question is, my only question is whether if we permit cannabis sales, would that alleviate, take some of the money away from these unregulated operations?
If I may ask a question, I believe I heard you say, Mr. Titterington, that there are a limited number of licenses available, so even if we were to say that we allowed this, there might be the possibility of not having a license available if the state has capped those licenses. So
it's certainly a possibility, yes.
Okay. So, anyway, I think there's room here for discussion. And do we have any comments from our other council people? Mr. Phillips, please.
Mr. Titterington, the prohibition or the lab portion, that is just an addition into the definitions. That is not a prohibition item.
No, it's not a prohibition. Per the law director, we can't prohibit that. That is, research and testing. So that section, there are two sections that it would be touched. Number one, the definition, so we can clearly define what they are, and then establishing which zoning district they would be allowed in.
Correct, okay, thank you. So the moratorium is the pressing item at the moment, is that correct, as Mrs. Sneed pointed out?
That's correct.
Okay. All I have, thank you.
I would be in favor of extending the moratorium, and continuing on, but, holding off on, I don't think that it's up for debate right now, or what we're doing with the total ban until we can get, more public comment, to see what they have to say. Obviously, we had an election last fall. It's not apples to oranges, or apples to apples, or what we're trying to do here versus what was on the ballot, but I would default to what the voters had to say in November and not put a ban in place. But again, it's not apples to apples, what was on the ballot last November. So I would highly encourage the public to come out and make their voices heard on this issue. We have that opportunity, and they have that opportunity.
So, Mr. Chair, I know with some schedules, we had talked about possibly doing that on November 4th.
Right.
To give adequate time for us to push, a press release, the news media, social media, on our website, give people the opportunity, not just to be here, if they can't be here because schedules are always challenging, but also the opportunity to email, text, or message, or send by U.S. mail if they'd like to, their comments, and that would give them time to do that.
Any other comments from the,
I just wanted to say, is this the second extension of the moratorium?
be the third?
Okay, is there a reason?
Or no, it'd be the second, it'd be the second.
Extension, the third.
Okay, is there a reason that we haven't had public input up until this point?
Well, because this issue has not come to the council yet, because first we were waiting for the state to come up with their regulations.
Okay.
Once they finally did that after we extended the first time, so the second moratorium, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
And then once we got that, then we had to do some research so that we could file a report with the Planning Commission, and the Planning Commission acted last week, and so now we're just
So we can't have public input until the Planning Commission follows through. I mean, that was the holdup previously.
Just wasn't in front of us.
I don't think there's a
it's-
prohibition
yeah,
on the
yeah.
public speaking,
Yeah.
Okay.
Mrs. Westfall.
I'm just
So,
trying to figure out, I mean, it
th-
seems like, we gotta hurry up and get this done, and we've had.
Oh,
I
no,
don't-
oh, no, we're not
That's what we're
hurrying it.
saying, not
Nobody
hurrying up,
said that we
getting
have
it
to
done.
hurry this.
We're
I
saying-
want to make that clear. We're not pushing any timetable at all, as long as we've got the moratorium in place.
Okay.
And if push comes to shove, we could always extend the moratorium into next year or farther if we wanted to. I mean, we get into February, we still haven't
With
made,
a legitimate reason, yes.
yeah, if we're still considering it, we could move it,
Correct.
extend it another time period if we wanted to, so, okay.
That's correct.
Any questions from the, any other staff or council people or the audience on this particular? Yes, sir. Come on up, Steve. Name and address and.
I'm Steve Hendrickson at 975 Dickerson. Let's remember that the Ohio legislature was very much against this voter-supported issue. They were against it from day one, okay? They fought against it. It's like, oh, we're going to turn the whole state into a bunch of zombies running around smoking everything. And in the meantime, we apparently have an illegal crack operation going on in town that police have been to and apparently haven't decided to shut it down yet. This is another example of why people hate politicians. The citizens got together, drafted this thing, went to the ballot box, it got passed, and we're still fighting now to get it implemented. Because the people in the state decided they hate it, So guess what? We're gonna throw every piece of crap in the way to make it implemented, and here in Troy, we're doing exactly what the state wants. Throw another bunch of crap in the front of this thing for what the voters voted on. Now, apparently, this is another example of the state legislature saying, we don't care what the voters want. We're smarter than them. They're just a bunch of people that want to have liberty. And quite frankly, as a citizen, it makes me vomit just thinking about how this is coming about. And we've got a couple of other issues coming up. Guess what? This gerrymandering thing, like, oh, my God, we can't have the public decide how this is going. We like things just the way we are. We like to keep our 70% plurality in place. It just drives me crazy. It drives me crazy. I could care less about the cannabis issue. I really could. I don't care. But you're postponing all this stuff, maybe till next February. And then with a little bit of luck, all the other licenses statewide, they'll be gone. So there won't be anything in Troy, even if one of you decides to set up a business. Be careful of what you're trying to do. The will of the people is going to come back and bite somebody. Okay? People go out, they make the effort. Happened here in Troy, guess what? They saved a building despite all the roadblocks put up in front of it. This is another example of citizens wanting to do something they believe in, and the government kind of ignoring that. That's what irritates me about this, is the arrogance of it. The absolute arrogance of it. We don't care what your voters think. We don't care what you want. Now, if the voters had been smarter, they would have written something that says, okay, the only way this can get overturned is by 75% vote of the state Senate. Not just some bunch of bureaucrats somewhere saying, okay, well, we're gonna fix this, but we're gonna set up a whole bunch of rules so that nobody can, in their right mind, would try to open up a business like this. Just be careful what you ask for, okay? Listen to the citizens, for God's sakes, not some bunch of bureaucrats in Columbus. I could care less what they think. The citizens of Ohio voted for this, okay? Get over it. This is not a presidential election that you say, oh, it got stolen. Baloney. It didn't. This is not getting something that got stolen, for God's sakes. I realize I'm talking against the wind in Miami County, okay? But nonetheless, fair is fair and right is right. The citizens voted for this, and you can either like it or not like it, but that's what they did. I don't have anything else. Anybody, any questions?
Well, if I can just say, I think that's what we're saying we want to do, is hear from the citizens, what they would like to happen in Troy.
I hope they show up.
I hope so, too.
I wouldn't count on it. This is an intimidating, it's going to be intimidating. There's not that many people who are going to say, oh, I want to fight the Planning Commission, I want to fight the rulings of the state and all the steps you have to take. There's not got that many people that are going to have the gumption to do that. I hope they do, half of which some people say, oh, just a bunch of potheads that want to go ahead and make it legal. Okay? Even if they are potheads, they vote. So, I hope we get more public comment. But I think it's stacked against them. It really is. Most of them are going to be too afraid to come up against the council or the planning commission or whatever else, or by extension the legislature. So I hope we need more public conversation. I agree 100% with what you said earlier. We need to have it, but it's got to be open and it's got to be an open dialogue. all the issues on the table. I'm sorry, I interrupted you, which is not my intention.
I said what I need to say.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. We appreciate it. Any other public comments? Okay. Okay, I think we have a couple things here. I think first is the extending the moratorium. Is that, so we can
Moving forward with that.
bring that before council at the next meeting and extend the moratorium by 90 days. And then the, I think, again, is trying to get some public comment, I think would be a very good idea. And we talked about possibly during the 4th of November, the council meeting during the 4th of November. And so
include that
is
on the
okay
agenda.
for everybody on that one?
Mm-hmm.
So I think we can do both of those recommendations for council on that.
Okay,
Is there anything else before the committee tonight?
there is.
Mm-hmm. Your second item.
Mr.
Oh, there is a second one, yeah.
There is a second one that Mr. Davis will present.
Okay. Number 2, provide a recommendation to council regarding the acceptance of at the community night, let me try that up here. Provide a recommendation to council regarding an agreement between the city and Miami County.
No.
We've already done the public health one.
The second on committee.
Okay, we are on the committee, I'm
Number
sorry.
2.
Now you got me, I am confused. Provide a recommendation to council regarding the acceptance of 4 parcels from the Miami County Board of Revisions and transfer said parcels to the Community Improvement Corporation of the City of Troy, Ohio, so that the CIC can proceed to sell the properties for redevelopment. And the properties are 366 Miami Street, 101 South Meadow Lane, 402 Lake Street, and 177 Finsbury Lane.
That is correct. We have been working with the Miami County Board of Revisions, and what they've done, we've had properties that we consider non-productive properties. So properties that have assessments and back taxes that far exceed the value of the property. So we call those non-productive. So if somebody wanted to go in and purchase the property to revitalize it, there's no incentive for them to do that because they're paying $80,000 worth of back taxes to get the property that might be worth $20,000. So what the Board of Revisions has done has removed the back taxes and have offered them to the city with a clear title. So right now these properties would be given to the city so they can be sold and put back into productive use. We've done this several different times on several different pieces of properties. Typically, the city council would authorize it to go to the Community Improvement Corporation or the CIC. The CIC has more flexibility in selling property, whereas the city council might have to do a public bid. That may not be the end use that you're looking for. The CIC has a little more flexibility to kind of get it back in productive use, maybe put another house on these properties. At one time, all these properties, which are all buildable properties, had a home on them, was removed. Either they were dilapidated properties, and then the cost of that removal was assessed to them. So that's kind of why they're in the state. And then we have the opportunity now to take those properties and sell those, put them back into productive use, and that's what we're asking for.
Okay. Questions?
No.
No, pretty straightforward.
Okay, Mr. Davis, these are all vacant lots then, right, is what you're telling us?
But that's correct, yes.
But they are in, I'm looking at here, they're in residential neighborhoods basically, right?
All 4 of them, yep.
Okay, great, yeah. So somebody's just gonna be buying a vacant lot and hopefully build a new home or something on there would be the idea?
Yeah, that'd be the idea, yes.
Okay, great.
Yeah, they all are large enough that they would comply with the zoning district to build another house, and probably targeted towards more of the workforce
Mm-hmm.
demographic.
Right. Questions from other Mr. Phillips?
Thank you, sir. Are these, is there something that Habitat for Humanity could get involved with these properties through the CIC?
That's something that they could look into if they have interest, yes.
So they're,
They can bid on those as well as anybody else,
Got it.
certainly.
and you are saying they are shovel-ready, they're dirt lots?
That's correct. They all have had houses and are connected to utilities or have the option for connection.
Did the county, or were they vacant prior to the county taking ownership, or did the county expend money to remove them?
So it's a requirement that they be vacant before we could go to the Board of Revision, so they've been vacant for most of these at least 6 years, if not longer.
Gotcha. Okay. I think that's about all. Thank you.
Any other council members have a question? Staff, members of the audience? What's our decision on this?
Move forward.
Move forward?
Move forward.
I think we can move forward on this item. Okay. Now, is there anything else before?
No, sir.
Okay. I think we're adjourned then. Thank you so much.